Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, and it is Stacy time. And everybody remembers Stacy Cross is our McDougall support specialist. She is here to answer your questions and to have a nice little chat. We were just cutting up beforehand because Kathy is not going to join us the whole time today on camera. She is actually actively in a cleaning mood, and we do not want to suppress that. So we are going to continue on. Here she comes in her jammies.
Hey, everybody. Stacy wanted me to show you my arms and be in a sleeveless shirt. So I haven't cut my hair or anything, but I love you guys. But we're getting some wiring change, so I have to clean up stuff in my office. And it's the mood. And it's not 105 degrees. So
that's exactly right.
Enjoy.
So there you have it. The cleaning mood is official, so things are happening. We do have to have our wiring replaced to our thermostat Friday, and so he has to get into her office to be able to bring the new wires in, so that is another reason why things have to happen today. So with that said, Stacy, I'm going to kick it off. You just came back off of a vacation. How was that?
Yes. Well, hi everybody. First of all, it's so good to see you all. I'm Stacy Cross. I'm a support specialist for the McDougall Program. As many of you all know, we lost Dr. McDougall about a week and a half ago now. And I was on vacation when Heather called me to give me the news. Heather is Dr. McDougall's daughter and my boss. And as you can imagine, it was just the most devastating, saddest news we could have received. It was day one of our vacation. So that was tough. And it was a tough, probably like extra tough 36 hours following the news. And then the whole rest of the vacation, we had a lovely time. It was just my husband and I, and in the beach. It was wonderful. But, definitely felt the cloud of sadness and heaviness surrounding our loss and yours. This is a loss for us all. And anybody whose life was touched by Dr. McDougall is experiencing this loss in their own personal way. And so I just want to acknowledge that first and foremost for all of you out there who have felt in any way brushed by the legacy of Dr. McDougall, that I'm just so sorry for your loss and for just how hard it is to process and grieve, even at a distance. Even if you never met him in person, gosh, we all know he was certainly larger than life and he was everywhere. And many of us have been listening to him for years. He was just so accessible here on YouTube especially. So anyway, just want to acknowledge that and say, we are feeling for you just as you are feeling for us, our team. Also, Cheryl, is now a good time to kind of get into the what now?
Yeah, I think this show, it can be just, and one of the things I was thinking while you were talking about being on the beach is like kind of what a nice memorial to him, because he liked to be, out in the water and doing things. So it was kind of a nice time to reflect, I think. On
Absolutely, it was. It really was. And it was strange. It felt strangely cathartic to have him and Mary and Heather and Pat and Craig, which are his two sons, and their whole families, just close in our hearts the whole week. I wrote to somebody this morning in an email that, I love my job so much. I'm never feeling like when I go on vacation, I'm trying to get away from these people or this work or anything. And so, I had a couple of people say like, oh, how awful that, that happened while you were on vacation. And I thought, in a way, I'm thankful because they were there, or my thoughts for our team and for all of our patients and for Dr. McDougall and his entire family were there with me, so close in my heart the whole vacation. And in a way, I really cherished that. So I know that all sounds really hokey. It's really true. That's sincerely how I felt the whole time. So thankful to have carried you all in my heart. all week long.
So fill us in. What's going to go on from now on?
Yeah. So, I was thinking about this in the shower this morning. I was like, how do I describe Dr. McDougall's role in it, like right before he passed away in the McDougall program, and how things run around him? And this isn't a perfect, description, but I was thinking it's probably sort of like Dr. McDougall was Bono, and we are all of Bono's entire crew who makes everything perfect for Bono, and then Bono goes on and performs. That's the beauty of how Heather McDougall, she's the CEO of the McDougall program. And what Dr. McDougall and Mary equipped Heather to do and freed her to do is truly run the whole business and to select a world-class team. I'm not just saying that because I'm on it. In fact, sometimes as I look around at our team, I'm like, how did I get here? I'm like, one of these things is not like the others, but I'm grateful. I'm very grateful to be there. But our team is stellar. We're incredibly tight. These are incredible professionals, most of which have been with Dr. McDougall in the McDougall program in some capacity for decades. And so we all run the McDougall program, and we basically essentially set it up in such a way that Bono, who is Dr. McDougall, can come on and shine and do his thing. And so the beauty is that we are a well-oiled machine. We know exactly how to do the whole thing. Will it ever be the same again? Guys, it won't. It won't ever be the same again. And the beauty is that it will be what it will be, and it'll still be great, and it'll still be wonderful. And we all are so committed to the truth, just as Dr. McDougall was. We're so committed to his legacy and his message. And so we're forging ahead. And so hang with us, come with us. We have one more program where there are spots still in October. And July is full. So we have a program coming up July 19th. It is full. But October 11th through the 22nd, there are still a few slots available if you'd like to come and join us for the program. I am not telling anyone to do this, but I was really touched by a patient that reached out to me by email this week and said that in honor of Dr. McDougall's life, she wanted to purchase every program and every book and everything that she could get her hands on as a thank you to him and to the team, and she wanted to go through the program again and everything. And I just thought that was so beautiful. Obviously, I'm not saying like everybody buy everything, not at all. But if you've been touched by Dr. McDougall's work and you've been on the fence thinking about doing the program, maybe now's your time. It will look different. Obviously, he won't be there giving his lectures that he normally gives at the program. He won't be there for the daily question and answer session with Mary. We're going to miss that terribly. That was such a beautiful and special thing that I'm sure anybody here who is an alum of the program could tell you how great that was. Cheryl,
Yeah, it was.
It was really special. But the plan right now is to have a rotation of our staff come in, all of us taking turns and doing the question and answer sessions in the morning. So we're going to make sure that we have like a really great session each day, question answered. Everybody gets their questions answered. That's a priority to everybody on staff, that if you go through the McDougall program, you're coming out with no more questions. That's the goal. So that you feel totally equipped and you completely understand to live this lifestyle for the rest of your life. His lectures will be covered by Dr. Anthony Lim, who is our medical director. He's the one who already sees all of our patients anyway, so they are well acquainted with him, and he's a wonderful speaker and lecturer and just a very spectacular person. So it's not at all to say that no worries, we got it, everything will be just fine. No, it's going to be different. It will, and we will be mourning the loss of Dr. McDougall for a very long time. And but we do got it. And we do have a plan, and it will be okay. And everybody will be taken care of. And it's still going to continue to be a wonderful, wonderful program.
You know, the only thing that I can think of after going through all that is, how is Dr. Lim going to have time to like do everything? Because he is just like, he is go, 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 like the Energizer Bunny from the time the program starts until the end. And he is just meeting with people and talking with people and, you know, making appointments. And I'm like, wow, that's, whoo, that's a lot.
Yes. Yes. So the beautiful thing is that if everybody steps in a little bit to help, that the load is dispersed among the groups. So
that makes sense.
We are going to take care of Dr. Lim. Don't you worry. We will not let him burn out. He also has fantastic personal boundaries, and he advocates for his needs. And so if it is too much, he'll say, I need some help over here, or we need to do this differently or whatever. And we all, you know, like I've mentioned, we are a very tight team. I mean, we are colleagues and we are professionals, and we are also dear friends, and we look out for each other and take care of each other. And so there's a very like honest and open dialogue at all times about how people are doing and do they need help with this, that, and the other. And so no worries. We will not let our national treasure, Dr. Anthony Lim, burn out. We won't, I promise. We're going to take good care of him.
And I'm sure another question that's going to come up, Stacy, is going to be, what about Mary? Is Mary still going to be involved doing some of her sessions?
Yeah. Oh, we love Mary so much, don't we?
Yep.
Oh. You know what? At this time, Cheryl, I do not know the answer to that question.
Gotcha.
I think that that right now we are giving Mary some space and
that
time
makes perfect sense.
To figure out what's next for her. So I'm sure that that's a conversation that she and Heather are going to have on an ongoing basis in the next few weeks and months. But right now, I think Mary's taking a much deserved little break.
Absolutely. And
period,
we are still holding her in our hearts.
Thank you.
And the whole family. Jeez. And we know it cannot be easy. And here I am tearing up, thinking about all the stuff that they're going through. But
someone asked me like yesterday or the day before, you know, they are a praying person, and they said, is there anything that you can think of specifically that I can pray for? And I said, just pray for Mary. I was like, in fact, any prayers that you would have prayed for me, go ahead and pray them for Mary instead, because I'm okay. And I am so concerned for Mary. She will be okay too. They have an incredibly supportive family. You know, the 3 McDougall kids are all involved and close to their parents. And so she'll be all right. But if you want to, you guys, if you're like, I really want to send a card, go to our website, drmcdougall.com, and go to contact us. And our P.O. box is there, and you can put attention to whomever you would like to send a card to. You can put attention Heather, attention Mary, or whatever. And please, I mean, I would love nothing more than for Heather and Mary to be flooded with sympathy cards from all over the place. So please feel free to do that. But if you don't, just keep them in your thoughts and in your heart. And also, one thing that I love that is really beautiful, one of our close friends, Beth, she's an alumni of the program. She also speaks at our program sometimes and shares her McDougall experience. She said to me this morning that she's planning, like in honor of Dr. McDougall's life, to purchase some copies of the Starch solution to just give away to people. Nice. And I love that kind of like random act of kindness. It doesn't even have to be anything where you buy anything, I mean, or do anything Starch solution related. Even if you volunteer some time at a food bank or cook a meal for the homeless or some small little act in honor of his life and legacy, beautiful. And if you want to take a picture of it and email it to us, I know that Mary and Heather and our whole team would be so touched by that. So whatever you feel, whatever feels like a good way to process this, do that. And it's definitely okay to cry. I echo what Rebecca said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cheryl.
It was, I was shocked. I I kind of
Yes.
woke up to that message, and I was just this wave of sadness came over me that, I never met him in person, but I've talked to him so much one-on-one since last July that I just, felt very, very close to him.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a rough weekend. And then, lots of questions. We've gotten lots and lots of questions from folks. I think you've answered a huge majority of them just now about how the program's going to continue and things like that. I encourage anyone, if you have any questions for Stacy, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll try to get to those. And let's just kind of move on with, I have a question for Stacy.
Yes, please.
So my question is and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this for me or not, but you know me pretty well. So adding the beans in has been really good, helping me to kind of feel full with that first sitting instead of having to go back and get more starchy kind of stuff and everything. And that I'm feeling really, really good about it. My question is, should I be adding in more vegetables and reducing the number of beans and starch, or am I still okay to have the larger portion of the beans and starch? Just because I'm thinking about, we all get the calorie thing in our head.
Right.
And so I get the calorie thing in my head, and I'm like, oh, and now I'm adding beans on top of this rice, and am I eating too much again, kind of thing. And so I just, for my sanity, if you could address the whole, am I eating too much again?
Yeah, I listen. Okay, so doesn't matter how often we talk about, we want you to eat when you're hungry. We want you to eat till you're comfortably full. It's still, I think, human nature, and especially those of us who have dieted over the years, it is in our DNA and nature to go, am I eating too much? Always. And so you don't need to feel ashamed that you need to be reminded of these things, Cheryl. I mean, you're not alone. Even I feel that way sometimes, even though I know very well that I should not ever try to eat under my hunger drive. I still have moments where I go, ooh, that was too much, and I have to talk myself off the ledge. So I get it. Let's talk about this for a minute. Okay, so calorie density is something that we focus a lot of attention on with the McDougall diet, because it is the magic of the McDougall diet, is that the foods that we are telling you to center your diet on, the water-rich cooked starches, fruits, and vegetables, those also just so happen to be very low in calorie density and perfect for weight loss. Because when you stick to those foods, you're going to naturally lose weight and end up at your ideal body weight. Now, having said that, something that we don't talk a ton about when it comes to calorie density is the fact that oftentimes foods that are higher, so let's talk specifically about water-rich cooked starches. So that's your beans, rice, corn, quinoa, barley, oatmeal, cooked pasta, cooked potatoes. All of those are your water-rich cooked starches. Juxtapose those with your dry starches like bread, baked goods, tortillas, flour products, popcorn, chips, crackers, those kinds of things. Okay. So the water-rich cooked starches, the fruits, and the vegetables, those categories of food are so low in calorie density. And when you look at a calorie density scale, I can never do this because I'm like, are you guys mirroring me? I'm sorry, you guys. So let's say this is the low end of the calorie density scale. Okay. This is 0 calories per pound. And up here is like 700 calories per pound. All of the ones that I mentioned, the water-rich cooked starches, fruits, and vegetables are all in this range. Okay. And then after the 700 mark, That's where you get the dry starches, nuts, seeds, and avocados, all the other stuff that is higher in calorie density. When you're eating right here, you should, almost regardless of portions of each of these things, you should either maintain or lose weight relatively easily if you're eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're comfortably full. But the other thing that we don't talk about a lot is the fact that beans at, let's say, 650 calories per pound, when you compare those to greens at 150, 200 calories per pound, you'd think, oh, greens, they're so much lower in calories per pound. That means that I should eat those and I'll lose mega weight and I'll lose so fast and all this stuff. But beans, because they're more calorie dense, are more satisfying and they're more satiating, which means you need to eat fewer of them to get fuller for longer. Okay? So when you ask me, I've added in the beans, but I'm worried I'm eating too many calories, should I do vegetables? Well, here's the problem with that. When you add in more vegetables and you decrease your intake of beans and or other water-rich cooked starches, then you're dealing with the satiety problem, the satiety conundrum, which is you will never be satisfied off of fruits and vegetables because they just aren't calorie dense enough to sustain you, whereas beans and rice are. And so a lot of times this is an issue that I see constantly. We get people who come to our program who are like, I'm such a mess. I eat massive salads and I eat tons of broccoli and I eat tons of every other non-starchy vegetable. And I eat so much of those and I eat so few starches because I'm trying to lose the last 20 pounds and I just can't do it. Well, the reason is because when you're eating massive salads and tons of non-starchy vegetables and fruit, you are never going to be full off of those things. And so you're just chasing your hunger all day long. And what people end up doing is inadvertently sabotaging their efforts because they're eating crazy quantities of fruits and vegetables trying to get full. And in the end, the only thing that will fill them up is starches. So then they go and get the starches too. And so they end up basically overeating calories because they're not going for the thing that is going to fill and sustain them, which is the starch.
Right.
So long answer, Cheryl, but the point I'm trying to make is this. If you're eating beans and rice, that is an incredibly filling, satisfying meal. And even if that's all you're eating and you're not eating any fruits and vegetables, chances are good that you'll get satisfied and then you will stay satisfied for many, many hours. The fruits and vegetables are really, yes, they do help lower the overall calorie density of your meals when you add in fruits and vegetables in place of more starch. But you have to be very careful to not overdo the fruits and vegetables such that you're not getting enough starch and then you're never satisfied. So right. The way that you know if you're eating too much is you check out your weight on the scale every once in a while. If you're still losing and you're eating nothing but beans and rice, fabulous. Gotcha. In that case, fruits and vegetables are used for taste and variety. And yes, if you want, they're very nutritious. They're very nutrient dense, which is fantastic. But do not exchange your efforts towards nutrient density for satiety, because satiety wins out in the end. Your body wants the calories so that you survive. So make sure you're taking care of that.
And just keep listening to my body and quit listening to my
diet culture. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so weird messages. Because it's like it's around us constantly, and no matter how much I say, just ignore it. It always seems to creep in there, and it just makes me crazy. Delia had a question in reference to this. She said, isn't there resistant starch in beans and potatoes?
Yes, I do not want anyone to worry about resistant versus non-resistant starch or any of that. That is one of those in the weeds things where there's like, there's all these teachings. You guys may have heard them about, you cook your potatoes and then you refrigerate them and then you reheat them and they're lower in calories because you refrigerated them rather than eating them right out of the pot. The difference is so incredibly nominal. And so I would say focus zero of your energy on that. In fact, if I could tell you where to focus your mental energy, if you're trying to lose weight, your mental energy should be focused on executing fruits, vegetables, and water-rich cooked starches as the majority of the foods that you consume, and just executing it faithfully, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, day after day, stringing meals into full days, into weeks, into months. And that's how you'll get to your goal. Do not worry about resistant versus non-resistant. Don't worry about meal timing. Don't worry about intermittent fasting. Don't worry about nutrient density. I'm not saying you don't need nutrients, but you get plenty of them on a whole foods plant-based diet, with the exception of B12. Everybody needs to be taking a B12 supplement. In fact, even if you are not on a whole foods plant-based diet and you're over the age of 50, you should also be supplementing with B12, according to Dr. McDougall, because people start experiencing lower and lower B12 at that age. We just don't have the natural sources of B12 like we used to in the dirt. We're not digging in the dirt, pulling out a carrot and chowing down. We're just not doing that like we used to. And neither are the animals, by the way.
Right.
So, yeah.
So Delia had another comment. She said, I don't like vegetables. What is the least amount of veggies that I need to eat? And I think you kind of touched on that. You don't have to eat any if you don't want to.
You really don't. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I would say you should eat potatoes. If you like them, try to get potatoes in, because potatoes, being a root vegetable that is growing in the ground, contains some vitamins and nutrients and minerals that only ground dwelling organisms get. And so you get things like vitamin C and vitamin K, and I don't know them all, but specific vitamins that you get, as opposed to things like rice. It's something about the vegetable being down, a root vegetable underground, growing underground. So I would say have vegetables when you can. They're great. They are a lot. You get a lot of bang for your buck, nutritionally speaking, from vegetables. But really, our priority with vegetables is to add taste, variety, and just flavor. I guess taste and flavor are the same thing. Okay. Taste, flavor, and variety into your diet. But yes, you can mostly focus your attention on the whole water-rich cooked starches.
Sorry, the dog's barking. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not.
No worries.
Thank you so much. You always just kind of like calm me down about when I start getting myself worked up. And the diet culture is such a real thing. I mean, so many years that I just, kept trying to lose weight and, trying everything that was popular and out there. And so that stuff just kind of sits and takes up residency in the back of my brain. And I just really wish that I could purge it out of there, but it's really trying to hang on. And so when we have these conversations, it always kind of sets me right for a few weeks at least, sometimes longer. So
yeah.
Let me just
speak.
Go ahead.
Just real quickly to the power of that, because I didn't realize how powerful the diet culture mentality was in my own mind and my own history until I started seeing patients that came to the McDougall program, and it was literally the first diet they had ever gone on. And I cannot even tell you how mind-blowing of an experience that is for someone like me to witness someone on their first ever diet. And they are just totally surrendering to it. And they're not wigging out, and they're not like, but what if it doesn't work? And they're just complete faith, like, this will work. This is sound science and advice. And so I'm just going to do it. And they just easily just go. There isn't all this self-doubt and questioning and like, what about the protein? And what about the, you know? And that's what really illuminated to me, oh, shoot, you know, those of us who have been on many diets, and let me just say, for anyone who doesn't know me or hasn't been here before, I've been on many diets, okay? I am just like you. I dieted for many, many, many years before I found the McDougall way of eating and lost my weight. So I get it. But I just didn't realize how powerful and unrelenting and immortal, really, that diet culture mindset is. And so this is where it really helps to have a support specialist, because Cheryl knows she can come to me literally anytime, write me an email, or like when we do our check-ins, go, Stace, I am struggling. Tell me again, talk me off the ledge again. And I will do it until the cows come home, because I truly understand what it is to have these wrong ideas continue to rear their ugly head all the way through the process. So I'm happy to restate the truth as many times as it takes for you to be comfortable.
And I so appreciate that. And I think that is one of the great things about the program for me was, you know, I was always one of those people that said, I don't need a bunch of support. I don't need, you know, anybody to be all touchy-feely. I don't need to constantly be talking to somebody about something. But then once I realized, yes, I do need that. I do need other people that are just kind of cheering me on. You can't do it by yourself. You just can't. You need friends, and that's why we're here. And that's why Stacy's coming on, so that everybody has somebody that they feel like they can talk to and ask questions to and things like that. TS has a question. This might have been more of a Kathy question, but I'm going to put it to you, Stacy. If an item is air fried, for example, mashed potato, does it then become a much higher density calorie food, even if you keep the portion size the same?
Okay, so the answer to that question is yes. Anytime that you are drying something out, you're removing the water, and or that thing is like shriveling up. So the best example of that would be a grape versus a raisin. So hold a grape and a raisin side by side. So we're going to hold our imaginary grapes and raisins. Everybody do it with me. Here we go. Here's your raisin, right? Here's your grape. What is the difference between the two things? The water has been removed. When you remove the water, you remove the volume. And what that does is it makes it much more calorie dense. Now, understand though, one grape and one raisin have the same number of calories. Everybody take a minute. One grape and one raisin have the same number of calories approximately, okay? The reason why we care about increasing the calorie density of something is because then let's talk about what's going to be satisfying to you if you're sitting down to a snack. When I sit down and have a handful of grapes, that's about enough for me. That's enough sweetness. That's enough water. Like it takes me a while to eat them, about a cup of grapes, whatever that ends up being, right? Think of that versus a handful of raisins. You may enjoy the flavor. You may have that sweetness edge taken off and all that stuff. But what you don't have is you have no volume in your stomach. So grapes are big, and yes, you chew them up and you swallow them, but they have water, you know, they have volume, and so they take up some space. So they actually take the edge off of the hunger that you're experiencing. Whereas raisins, you have to eat far more raisins than grapes in order to experience that same satiety, because they're shriveled up and tiny. So when you put something through the air fryer, it shrinks at times, and it also dries out. So that does make it more calorie dense. This is one of those places I don't want you to overthink it, TS and everybody else. I don't want you to go, well, then I can never put anything in the air fryer. No. The way I advise people about the air fryer is put your thing in the air fryer, but get it out when it's at the least crunchy level that you can enjoy and tolerate. So that's a terrible syntax structure, and I'm sorry, but I'll give an example. So let's say we're talking about frozen hash browns, no oil frozen hash browns, which you can find several varieties out there, and you're going to air fry them. Get them out before they're dark brown, okay? Because dark brown means they are very dry and very calorie dense. I would get them out personally when they're like light to slightly golden brown. That means you've taken less of the water out and you've kept more of the volume than you do when you get them dark brown.
Awesome. That is very, very helpful.
Good.
Monica has a question for you. Monica says, I find it so challenging to only eat when I'm hungry. What can help?
No worries, Monica. No worries at all. Just practice. That's it. Let go of the shame. Let go of the self-condemnation, the feeling that you failed when you eat when you're not hungry. It's okay. It takes practice. Even people who've been practicing for many years, that's me, still get it wrong sometimes. And that is okay, especially if you're eating water-rich cooked starches, fruits, and vegetables. Even if you overeat on those things, Dr. Lyle taught me something years ago, and I love it. And I love to repeat it as often as possible, which is when you're eating those foods, fruits, vegetables, and water-rich cooked starches, if you accidentally overeat or you accidentally eat when you're not hungry, the worst thing that's going to happen is your next meal will be pushed off, or maybe you'll require less at your next meal. As long as you're trying to tune into those hunger and fullness cues, it all will come out in the wash. It all works out in the end. Do not stress, because what happens is once you start stressing about it, or once you start feeling like you've failed or you've blown it, then suddenly you're like, well, I might as well just have a whole bag of tortilla chips and call it a day. That's not going to do you any favors. Yes, me too, a million times. Why do you think I know it so well? Yes.
Been there.
And
it's
so
like, you just throw your hands up.
Totally. And I don't know what it is about our psychology that makes us think that that's like somehow okay. Like,
and that's going to make us better. Like we keep thinking that's going to like make us better.
Right, exactly. So anyway, all that to say, Monica, just let it go and just try your best. And knowing that sometimes you're going to mess it up, and that's perfectly fine.
Diana asks if you have the name of a quality B12. She doesn't take it regularly, but does take a big complex.
I am of the opinion that you don't need a quality B12. You just need B12. Okay. So I buy, just to give you like a window into my life, I just buy it off of Amazon. I found the cheapest one that doesn't contain any animal products or weird stuff. And we take that. More is not better. That's one thing you need to know. You only need, I believe it's, and I always mess up this number, I believe it's 2.5 micrograms per day. Mm-hmm. That may even be high. Maybe it's 1.5. Anyway, it's a very small dosage. And of course, everything out there on the market is the high, 5,000 micrograms a day. Take it once or twice a week. Call it a day, and or find the lowest dose that you can find.
Well, remember just recently, Kathy was getting overdosed on it and had to completely change the brand that she was using. Yeah. I don't know how we were using two different brands. I don't know how that happened, but mine was not nearly the amount that hers was. Hers was like
100,000% of your daily.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like 100,000, and she got that at Costco. So
yeah. If you guys have one, Cheryl and Kathy, that you found that you really like, maybe you could post it in the show notes and the person who was asking can come back in, if that's not too much trouble.
These are the two smaller ones that Kathy has.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd be able
They're
to.
gummies so that I get a treat and my vitamin D. There's one is vitamin D plus K, and one is
Okay.
plus B12. So 2 of these are D. These are
Are
by
those,
D, and this is D and B12.
is that brand that Mary's or whatever?
Mary Ruth's.
Yeah.
Mary Ruth. Okay.
And they
Yeah,
have
and you can find
others
that.
that don't have, like this does have some sugar in it. It's my afternoon treat. And but we have to take vitamin D because ours is so,
Because we're hobbits.
yeah, ours is so low. If we don't take D, we're not okay. I know Dr. McDougall has said in the past that people just need to be in the sun, but it doesn't work for us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some folks do need to supplement with D, and we always, have stood by that. There are some, and especially, this is a very regional thing, depending on where you live in the country and how much exposure you have to the sun, your needs may be different. So that's something to talk about with your doctor for sure.
Yeah. Delia commented back about our conversation earlier, and she said, potatoes and beans are my staples. I can live on that, bananas and some broccoli. So
perfect.
Perfect.
Love
Yeah. That sounds good to me. I'm actually feeling a little hungry. Karen, this is for you, Stacy. Karen says, what are the chances of having you for our coach if we request you?
50-50. There are only 2 of us. It's me and Tiffany. And, we have had people request Tiffany or me in the past, and we say, we'll try, because a lot of times we are matched up based on what we each offer and the person's medical history and program needs and where you're located and what your time zone you're in and things like that. You're welcome to ask. And oftentimes we are totally able to honor the requests. Usually we can.
Yeah.
So, but I can't guarantee it. But Tiffany is amazing.
Yeah.
So let me just take a second. Tiffany is more amazing than I am. She's wonderful. She's been working with the McDougalls. I think she's known the McDougalls for like 28 years. And she's been working here for like 24. She is wonderful and has so much wisdom and experience. She has her own weight loss journey. She knows this way and this program like the back of her hand. She's wonderful. So you can't go wrong, because I'll take good care of you, and so will Tiffany.
And we had a question earlier, and I kind of skipped over it because I was waiting kind of for maybe towards the end, but we had a question about, how did you first hear about the McDougalls? How did you find out about the position and actually come about having a position at the McDougall group?
Oh, great question. Okay, so real big, quick summary is that many years ago, I would say it was probably 2009, my husband and I saw Forks Over Knives on Netflix. And at that time, we both, we had some very, very significant losses of close family members unexpectedly early. And so I think we were both very aware that we wanted to do everything we could to take care of our health. We were both quite overweight, and we're starting already in our very early 30s to see significant health changes. So our blood pressure was going up, cholesterol, all that stuff was starting to happen. And so we were ripe and primed to watch Forks Over Knives. But what is so funny, and I just laugh so hard about now, is that the message I walked away from Forks Over Knives with, for anyone who's seen this, they'll understand how funny this is. The changes that I made in our household was I started buying grass-fed beef and organic milk and free-range chicken eggs. So obviously the message was completely lost on me, but I definitely became more conscious and aware. And I mean, I think we were eating more fruits and vegetables and stuff, but we missed the memo completely about like the plant-based diet and all this stuff. But then later, in 2017, some close friends of ours recommended the documentary, What the Health? Wow, we sure did get it that time. So we watched it. we turned to each other, we watched it in bed, and we turned to each other, and it was bedtime, and we said, I guess we're vegan now, because we didn't know what word to use. So that's the word we chose. And the next morning we got up and we said, okay, what do vegans eat for breakfast? Figured it out, ate breakfast. Okay, what do vegans eat for lunch? And that's how we started. The amazing thing is at that time, we were like, I've always been like a major researcher and trying to do everything just right and all this stuff. And we went back and watched Forks Over Knives after we watched What the Health. And we saw Dr. McDougall talking in Forks Over Knives. And I thought, I like him. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I'm going to look him up. And so I Googled Dr. McDougall, found the Starch solution. We both read it twice. And we went, okay, this is it. This is what we're going to do. And so we started following this way of eating. So as far as how I ended up working for the McDougalls, I am a registered nurse and I have a background in cancer. So I worked for the American Cancer Society. I have worked some in pediatrics and kind of random. I also was a wedding photographer for many, many years.
Oh, awesome.
So I sort of went and did that and then came back to nursing. But when I went and started my job search, looking for a new nursing position, I was like, at this point, we were totally in on this lifestyle and we had seen amazing changes in ourselves and other people, online and all this stuff. And so I went, I don't think I can work in a hospital and pass meds. I just don't think I can do it. Someone has to do that. So props and shout out to all the nurses who are out there doing that stuff, because it's a very important and honorable position. But I just knew I needed to work in lifestyle medicine. I needed to be part of the solution. And so I sent my resume to every lifestyle practice I could find in all of the world. And I happened to send an email to the McDougalls. And I think because of my work history and my work with the American Cancer Society and stuff, Heather felt compelled to reach back out to me. It's funny because if you ask her today, she's like, I have no idea why I answered you. She's like, I never answer. She's like, I answer, but it's like, no, we're not hiring. Thanks anyway. She never hires somebody like that. And so it really just was kismet. I mean, it was just like the perfect time, the perfect place. I'm so grateful. I landed right where I'm supposed to be, and I hope I get to stay here forever.
And we are so glad that you are there, because
thank you.
We feel like not only have we gained someone with a tremendous amount of knowledge in our life, but also a really good friend.
Absolutely. Right back at y'all. Thank you.
Patsy has a question. And I think this is related to something you may have said some other time or maybe earlier. She said, you stated you prefer to identify as being whole food plant-based versus vegan.
Yes.
Please explain. I was accused of confusing people because I would say whole food plant-based instead of vegan. Why was I uncomfortable saying I was vegan?
Right. That is such a great question. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to answer it. The reason that I do not use terms like vegan and vegetarian, well, no, it's vegetarian. I just never used that word because I was already not going to eat eggs and cheese and things like that. But the reason why I started out saying vegan and I started to shy away from it was, number one, veganism is an ethical standpoint. It does not actually say anything about the health side of the dietary choices that you're making. So vegans, people who are true ethical vegans, they also, they're not wearing leather. They're not, what else? Just anything. Yeah. They're not going to wear wool. They're doing a lot of things from the ethical standpoint,
right,
of, and often, not always, certainly not always, but often you will find that they eat, Dia macaroni and cheese and Oreos all day long. Okay. Because you can very easily, yes, you can very easily be a very unhealthy vegan eater. Okay. And I am not in any way saying that I disagree with anything that vegans do. I personally also try to avoid buying leather. Anytime that I can avoid anything that exploits animals in any way, I will do it. And I will go out of my way to do it. That's my own personal decision. But the thing that we have camped on and parked on is that we are eating plants, whole food plants, in an effort to have the best health outcomes that we can. And so the whole saying that I'm a whole foods plant-based eater is, I find, much more descriptive of what I'm trying to do here. Also, when you say plant-based or plant predominant diet, that's to say, hey, if I eat something that has an animal product in it, that doesn't knock me off of that identity. You see what I'm saying? You're plant predominant or you're plant based. That means that if exceptions are made from time to time, that's okay. But I also, the very last thing I want to say about this, because I realize I'm being very long-winded today and I have no idea why, and I'm so sorry.
It's quite all right.
Okay, I'm going to try to be like more succinct in the next few questions. But the last thing I want to say about this is someone said to me early on in this journey, Stacy, you don't owe this to anyone. You don't owe your veganism to anyone. I mentioned this last time I was here. And that was so incredibly liberating for me because I had been trying, what does a vegan eat? What does a vegan do? What does a vegan say? What is a vegan like, And I was trying to fit a mold that already existed. And the truth is, I didn't owe that to anyone. I didn't need to do that. And so I don't personally, I know it's an age where we're all figuring out what our identity is and how do we describe who we are. And I just want to say, you don't owe a descriptor or an identity to anyone about anything. And furthermore, what you do identify as or the descriptors you use for yourself can also change and evolve over time. And so I don't say vegan, and I also don't say I am whole foods plant-based. What I personally say right now is I say I eat a predominantly whole foods plant-based diet. But as far as what I am, I'm just Stacy. I'm Stacy Cross, okay? And that's good enough for me.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Today, everybody is curious about you today, Stacy. We have another question from Sherry, and Sherry says, what is your favorite thing to put on top of a steamed potato? She is tired of just salsas.
Oh, okay. So not salsa. Hummus is delicious on a potato. If you want to go like just a little bit fancier and a little bit more calorie dense, but just use this in condiment like serving sizes. One thing that I enjoyed for many years was going and getting Kite Hill almond-based cream cheese.
Oh yeah.
And putting that on a steamy potato. It's like sour cream and it's delicious.
That's cool.
Using like 1 tablespoon of that. I did that for a while. I'll put chili, I'll make like a chili or even like a veggie soup and put that on. And oftentimes I'm just so old fashioned. I love ketchup. I love ketchup and I love mustard. And so
I put mustard on all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. Just your basics. So yeah.
In fact, lately, Kathy always has tons of Okara around from making soy milk and stuff and using them in creamy pints and stuff. And what I did the last time is I had a baked potato and I'm just standing there staring at it. And I was like, I wish that baked potato was potato salad. So what I did was I took some of that mustard and I mixed it with some of the Okara and then I mixed it in with the potatoes and it really reminded me of like, that mayonnaise mustard based potato salad. It was really tasty. The only thing I didn't add was like a relish, and probably next.
Kalanamak would have helped. It would have given the eggy mayonnaise.
Can you hear her?
Yeah.
The peanut gallery.
Salt. Yeah. She couldn't help herself. She's like, I gotta talk about that.
She can't help herself. She can't help herself. Oh, let me see what other questions we have. Oh, this is sweet. Diana says, when I listened to Dr. McDougall, I felt like I was listening to my grandfather because he used to give me such good advice in such a similar way.
Beautiful.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Another question for you, Stace.
Yeah.
What does Stacy think about black coffee regularly for weight loss and otherwise? Good or bad idea, or skip?
Well, so I'm paid to share with you the stance of the McDougall Program on coffee, which is that it's not a health food. Okay. There are lots of negative side effects to it. However, there are studies that show positive benefits to coffee. My feeling is if you drink coffee and you are not experiencing ill health effects from it, then you're probably okay. Now, one ill effect that a lot of people think they're not experiencing, but they probably are, is sleep disturbance. So we are chronically undersleeping, guys, in our country, and really, in probably any Western country. We are way over caffeinated and sleep deprived. And so if you have any trouble sleeping at all, the lowest hanging fruit for you to try is to cut caffeine out of your diet. So if that's you, I would strongly encourage you to do a trial off of the coffee. I know it hurts. I know it's hard, but do it. Also, blood pressure can be affected by caffeine as well, and by coffee specifically. So, but if you're not having any of those negative side effects and you enjoy coffee, go ahead. However, if you don't drink coffee now, don't start drinking coffee. It is not something that we promote. Like, yeah, start drinking coffee. Don't do it. I will tell you personally, I switched from coffee to green tea because this is so weird, but I felt that coffee was causing me to just be a sweatier person than I normally am. Like generally, I just felt like I sweated a lot more when I was drinking coffee. Now that I'm off the coffee, I don't really know that it makes a huge difference, but I can tell you that when I drink my tea in the morning, I feel much better inside than I did when I drank coffee. Coffee for me is like a jolt of lightning, which we all know that's sometimes fun. That's sometimes fun, right? But sometimes it also doesn't feel fun. It feels like almost like anxiety. And I didn't like that. I didn't want to feel that way. And with my tea, I drink matcha green tea. And with my tea, it's like this very gentle little slight elevation. And I just personally like the way it feels a little better.
Yeah. I have the after effects now. I didn't used to, but now I notice that if I have caffeine, like after like 11 a.m., I suffer through the evening. I can't get sleepy. And then very quickly, I'll go from slightly sleepy to wide awake again. And it's just, it's very hard. And it's really easy for me to slip into a 3 or 4 a.m. I'm sure if any of you have emailed me for help with Kathy's Cooking Club or anything, you've sometimes gotten a 3 or 4 a.m. Message from me thinking, wow, she's getting up real early and getting started on her day. No, I haven't gone to bed yet. That happens sometimes. And I have noticed that it is primarily when I have caffeine too late in the day. And so I suffer a little bit from that. Diana was also asking, what is okara? Okara is the pulp that you get when you make soy milk. So it's like the soy pulp after you strain out the milk. And then you get left with this like, I don't even know how to, it just kind of a, it's pulp. Yeah. I don't know how to explain what it,
okay,
here she comes.
Hi. not comb my hair person. So when you make you soak soybeans, you cook them, you puree them, then you strain them. What's left when you strain them is okara. It's a commonly used Japanese ingredient because soy milk is very common there. You can put it in mashed potatoes for extra fiber. Okara from homemade soy milk is not, I repeat, is not the same thing as powdered okara, any more than brown rice flour is the same thing as brown rice, right? So just know that. So don't go throw in powder where it's expecting something that looks like ricotta cheese.
Yeah.
Public service announcement.
And there was your cameo from Kathy. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So just some conversation was going on in the chat. I think that you can see the chat about people were talking about the vegan versus the whole food plant-based. And Katie L says, I always say vegan at a restaurant because it seems easier than trying to explain whole food plant-based. And I totally agree with that, because you can say vegan now and a server will just kind of be like, oh, you can have this, 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 or this. Well, can you do this? Yeah, we can modify that. But if you say whole food plant-based, their eyes glaze over like they used to when you said vegan. So it's progressing, right? But they just haven't quite got on the whole food plant-based train yet.
So I will say I don't say anything like that to servers at restaurants. No, I don't, because they don't know what you're talking about. They really do not. So I will just say, I look at the menu and I just look for my foods that I know I can eat. And then my focus when I'm communicating with the server is to make sure that it is prepared without any added oil or butter. That's where I focus, and I'm like looking the server in the eye and I'm like, can you make this with no added oil or butter? And they're like, let me check. Like 9 times out of 10, let me check. They go back to the kitchen and they come back. And if they say yes, I'm like, cool, that's my order. Because I don't want anyone to try to figure out something for me. I know I've got to be the one to figure out what I can eat. And I'll tell you a great example of that is anytime I've told somebody at a restaurant, do you have any like whole food, or vegan options or whatever? And they're like, we have the baked flounder. And I'm like, not vegan. And they're like, well, what about this cheese, sauce? And I'm like, also not vegan.
I've been offered chicken.
Yes, exactly. A lot of people think that vegan just means no red meat. Mm-hmm. I've gotten that a lot. Yeah. Or no meat, but they're like, but you still eat fish. And I'm like, actually, fish is meat. And they're like, what? So I even had somebody tell me one time that eggs were dairy, which I came to find out that in certain parts of the country, they are referred to as a dairy product, eggs. And it's not that people are like brain dead. It's that they, you don't realize in your culture the things that you just go with because it's what has always been said.
Right.
No one's stopping to think like, how are eggs dairy, So I just don't try to tell anybody anything. I don't try to name my diet anything. I just say, may I have the rice and the beans, the baked potato, the pasta? Can you prepare that with no added oil or butter? Good? Fabulous. That's it.
That's awesome. How often do they say yes to you?
Often, very often. But you guys remember I live in Austin, Texas.
Oh, that's
very health forward. Yeah. Lots of very health conscious people here. Now, I will say lots of keto, lots of paleo, lots of carnivorous diets here where people do believe they're doing what's best health-wise. And so you do have to make sure that people understand that that's not the direction you're trying to go when you're ordering at a restaurant. Yeah.
Cool. So, what advice would you give to someone that tends to eat vegan snack foods or even closer to vegan junk food and sometimes lacks like they have any kind of self-control?
Woo, honey, you give me a bunch of vegan, snacky, junky stuff.
It's hard.
My self-control suddenly disappears. Okay. To borrow from Chef AJ, get it out of your environment. If it's in your house, it's in your mouth.
Exactly.
Listen, do not torture yourself by having that in your home. Try to keep it out of your home. And a lot of people say, oh, but I live in a mixed household or I have kids. Listen, I've got 4 kids. I have 2 teenage boys and 2 school age, elementary aged boys. So you can imagine the kind of junky stuff they want here. So the rare times that I do let them bring junk in, because I am losing control as they get older, I make sure it's junk that doesn't appeal to me.
Right.
Number 1. And number 2, the junk that does appeal to me, it stays outside our home. I'll give you an example. Stan will occasionally take them to go pick out a breakfast treat that starts with a D and ends with O nuts. Okay? And so he understands. We have an understanding. We purchase exactly the number of donuts that our kids should reasonably consume. Well, first of all, some people will say kids shouldn't consume donuts. Okay, fine. That's fine. You live your life. I'll live mine. But when my kids rarely do get a treat like a donut, they have a reasonable amount of donuts and there are no leftovers brought into my home. Because this is my sanctuary and donuts in particular know my name and call it. And so donuts have no place in my home. That's just too bad, so sad. Like some people go, oh, your kids will never have. I used to try to make my kids muffins and little breads and all this stuff all the time. And I had to stop
what they want.
Because what was happening was they were like, this tastes healthy. We don't want this. And then I would eat a whole, banana bread loaf in an afternoon. So anyway, keep it out of your home. Don't torture yourself and do your best to keep your home environment a safe sanctuary for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we bought some stuff for our upcoming trip and it was in the house. It was in our mouth. Didn't even make it to the trip because it was in the house and we were like, ooh, let's try these, kind of things.
Classic.
They were supposed to be road trip special treat,
Yes.
Never made it to the car. So
yep, I know that story quite well.
Yeah, it just because something happens that you're like, I got this, and then something happens that day, and all of a sudden, like for me, I'll have a really tough thing happen at work, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, and I'm a stress eater, so I'm like, where's the crunchiest thing I can put my hands on, kind of thing, because it seems to be I have to have that crunch to like satisfy whatever kind of neurosis thing is going on with me, and that's a really hard thing to break.
It is.
But
remember,
good days and bad days.
Remember though that everything is relative. So if you are dying for something crunchy, give yourself a minute to breathe through it, right? Because it does feel like this. So take a minute, take a pause, and go, okay, what will do the least amount of damage, crunchy wise? Okay, because Doritos are not the same thing as air popped popcorn. So if I were to pop up some air popped popcorn right now, would that do the trick? And if the answer is yes, go ahead and do that. Is it going to wreck your weight loss? No. If you do it every day, 3 times a day, could it wreck your weight loss? Sure. But doing it every once in a while just to take the edge off in those moments is perfectly fine and probably won't move the needle one way or the other on your weight loss. The other thing I tell my patients a lot about this subject, about your environment, your home environment, is I tell them when you're grocery shopping and bringing stuff into your home, never shop for the strongest version of yourself. Shop for the weakest version of yourself. So Cheryl, you may have a morning that you're feeling good and skinny and you're feeling strong and everything's going great at work and you and Kathy are getting along perfectly and everything. So you trot on down to Trader Joe's and you're like, woo, apple cider donuts or whatever. You're like, we'll just have a little taste of this later because you're feeling strong.
Yeah.
And hey, these won't be a temptation. They'll be a small little treat, blah, blah, blah. That girl does not need you grocery shopping for her. The girl who needs you grocery shopping for her is the weakest, saddest, most downtrodden, most exhausted, most stressed out version of yourself. Always shop for that girl.
It is so true. It is so true. And that's how the road trip junk got into this house.
Yes.
Because we're on this day and we were at Sprouts grocery shopping, and then they had a coupon, which is the other problem, because I'm like, oh, that's a really good deal. So, and I'm just going to say it. Hippies had two flavors that were seasonal flavors, and those are vegan, but they are not good for you. And they had one that was like Mexican corn, street corn, and everyone knows, like, if it's corn, I'm on it. And then the other thing was a churro flavor. The first thing in my head was, there's no way they can make hippies taste like churros. So I have to get these to see. But we're going to wait and not have any of these. We're going to wait until we go on vacation and try these when I've been driving for 7 hours and I'm starting to feel kind of crappy. And then I'm going to say, okay, let's bust out those hippies, because then I'm going to have my last little burst that I need to get where I'm going, right? They never made it to the car. We ate those. And yes, hippies can make them taste like churros. And so those will not be in the house again.
Yeah.
Because it was...
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and we were just feeling confident. We were just, we'll taste these later. We're going to put them in the car. Very confident. What I should have done was go, there's no way we can get these until like an hour before we leave.
Right. Yes. Lesson learned. I've been there. And I always tell people, because I have patients who show up, on a weekly basis, and they go, oh no, I ran into this product at the store and I binged on it or whatever. And I go, you know what? Now you know. You wouldn't have known unless you tried them. It's okay. Just get back up, dust yourself off, and keep going. No big deal. You haven't robbed a bank or punched an old lady in the face. Let's put this in perspective. It's just food. It's just one little slip up, and now you know. And you don't have to wonder if churro hippies is any good. Now you know.
Well, and the other thing too is I've gotten so good, and I'm very proud of myself in the fact that when I do something stupid like that, I immediately go, tomorrow I'm going to walk a little further, right? That's like, right. I immediately kind of like go, okay, how do I write this? This is how I write this. Tomorrow I'm going to just like be picture perfect, and I'm going to walk a little further. And, so I try not to do it like all the time, but it helps me to know, that I've gone from the, oh my God, I'm such a bad person. I totally messed up. I'm just a loser, to, well, tomorrow I'm going to work a little harder because obviously today was not a good day.
Yes.
And I feel like that's a huge, you've known me now for a year, and I feel like that's a huge growth for me.
So huge. So huge. I do want to say one quick thing about that though, which is that there's a difference between feeling motivated by our choices to do better the next day. Like, okay, you know what? I'm going to walk a little more tomorrow, and that will make me feel better about having made this choice. That is a very reasonable, even-keeled decision. Do you understand, though, that there's a fine line between that and a punitive result, consequence from your actions?
Yes.
So the punitive side would be, I ate those and now I need to go get on the treadmill for an hour. You idiot. How could you let this happen? And then you beat yourself up. Okay, so first of all, it's counterproductive because the more we exercise, the more calories our body demands. So that isn't a great thing. Like, more physical activity isn't a great trade-off for more food because the cycle continues.
Right.
The other thing I don't want people to do is I don't want people to go, shoot, I just ate like 1 million hippies churro bites. Now I can't eat dinner. Because those little churro bites, being as calorie dense and small as they are, because they're dry, dense calories,
Very dry.
They're not going to fill you up. Yeah. So you will at some point get hungry for dinner. And then you're sitting there rumbly tummy, not listening to your body's hunger and fullness cues. And that can set you up for another mistake or another binge. So there's a fine line. What you're doing is beautiful. I love it. I love you going, hey, it's all good. Tomorrow, I'm just going to walk a little bit further, and that will help make positive progress in the direction that I want to go, which is a more active, healthier version of myself.
Right.
But not doing it as a punishment for a bad choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally am over the whole punishing myself thing. I feel like I really got over that months ago. Good. And, you know, it's been a huge difference for me because I don't just slip into that like depression kind of like thing that circles around.
Good.
I think we've got time for maybe one more question or so. We did have a question. People are saying that there are a few people that have asked if you would like to address Dr. McDougall's death.
Yes.
One of the comments from Jamie is, don't you think it's important that we know what Dr. McDougall died from so we can learn from his death? And
great question.
I think if that is something that you would like to speak about, I think everyone here would love to listen to you.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to speak to that. Before I do, Cheryl, do you mind just going over the comments and making sure that there aren't any more specific questions about this so that I can make sure I hit on their questions in my answer, because I don't want to leave anything out. And of course, I'm going to come back next month. I'll be back at some point. I don't know if we've picked a date, but I'll be back. And so if there are additional questions, you guys are always welcome to write them in, and we'll put them on the docket for next month. So Cheryl, why don't you go ahead, start looking through the comments to make sure that I haven't missed anything, but I'll go ahead and start talking. So yes, I understand the public desire and request for more information about Dr. McDougall's death. And so I'm going to give you all the information that I know, and also help reassure you why it's okay that we don't know everything. So first of all, Dr. McDougall did in fact pass away at home in his sleep, at home with Mary, okay? He had not been acutely ill. He had not been diseased. He hadn't had cancer, like nothing was going on to indicate that he was on his way out. So it was a surprise to all of us, to us as much as it was to you. Now, having said that, as much of a surprise as it was that he died, it wasn't particularly shocking, and I'll give you the reasons why. The number one reason why it is not particularly shocking that Dr. McDougall died at the age of 77 is that when he was 18 years old, he had a massive stroke that should have killed him at that time. He was made incredibly ill and debilitated by that stroke. And it took him many months, and my understanding is years, to recover from that. And he never fully recovered. So a lot of people don't know this because you've only seen him online. But if you saw him in person, you would likely be shocked to see that he walks with a very significant limp, and he has his whole life since his stroke. Now, furthermore, even after his stroke, he continued to smoke quite a lot. He's talked about that openly and publicly many times, his struggle with smoking. And so he even was still not quite living the right lifestyle for a little while after his stroke, but then still very relatively young, came into this whole lifestyle and philosophy and everything. And as a result of that, was able to live another approximately 60 years, which I understand that you're not all medical practitioners and that you're experts in your field. But I will tell you, as a medical practitioner, the fact that he lived another 60 years after the type of stroke that he had is a testament in and of itself to the power of this diet and lifestyle. He should not have been alive for 60 more years. In fact, if he had kept going in the direction that he was going back then, he likely would have had a subsequent stroke in the next 10 to 15 years. And he might not have been with us even into his 30s. So just to put it into perspective, there's that. One thing that Dr. McDougall never minced words about and said, I heard him say it publicly in the program and on YouTube and all over the place many, many times, is that there is some damage that is done to the body that cannot and will not be undone. We cannot expect this diet to fix every single thing. And he said very publicly many times that it would be highly likely that his life would be cut short because of the stroke that he suffered. And that he would likely, at some point along the way, because of his history of stroke, that he would probably have another stroke, even though he ate a completely stroke preventative diet. For people who have a history of stroke, their chances of having a subsequent stroke are very high. But the fact that he went 60 years without one is almost unheard of, you guys. And anybody here who's a medical practitioner, feel free to chime in and echo if you'd like, help the people understand just how uncommon that is for someone post-stroke to live 60 years and then pass away in their sleep, not ever having had another stroke. In addition to all of that, some of you may not know that Dr. McDougall has had some very significant health challenges in recent years. In 2017, Mary and John's house burned to the ground in Santa Rosa in the wildfires, and they barely got out alive. They were rescued in the middle of the night from their home. And so, that was a significant blow to his overall health and well-being. He has had a couple of stumbles and falls, very highly likely related to his limp that, like I said, he has walked with his entire life since his stroke. And so his disability did likely play a role in his health decline. But any of you who follow Dr. McDougall, he never lost his mental acuity and sharpness right up to the very end. And what he always wanted was to be able to do what he loves with the people he loves until the end of his life. And he got to do exactly that. As you guys know, he addressed the public on YouTube, less than a week before his death. There was no indication that this was coming. So, like I said, all of us, just like you, were shocked or maybe surprised, right? We were surprised. Oh my gosh, what? I've had several patients emailing me and say, I didn't know he was ill. He wasn't. He hadn't been ill. So there's that. And then, but it wasn't particularly, like I said, shocking that something like this should happen to him. Now, as far as the piece, I've seen, this is really hard for me, you guys. I'm just going to be honest with you. I have seen people comment online things like, I demand an autopsy, or you owe it to the public to release more information about his death. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be straight with you. That is absolutely, categorically false. His family doesn't owe us anything. They have given us more than they ever owed us of their lives and their personal stories. However, I understand the curiosity. Well, what caused it? Likely what happened, this is what happens when people die in their sleep. They have a cardiac event of some kind. They have a heart attack, they have a stroke. That is how they pass in their sleep. But my question to all of the people who are calling into question his death and why did he die this way and how does this happen is, you've really got to ask yourself what you're trying to do here. Because if we're not all trying to die at home peacefully in our sleep when our days are up, what are we trying to do? It's almost as if people would be more satisfied if he had had a long cancer battle or he had been sick in the hospital. But guys, that's exactly what we don't want for you. We don't want you to be in and out of the hospital. We don't want you to struggle through diabetes and losing all your toes and your feet. And all of these things are exactly the things that Dr. McDougall fought so hard to try to prevent in your lives. And by grace, he was able to avoid them too. And so I know that 77 feels awfully young. Many of us are knocking on the door of 77. So it can feel, this is extra hard in that way. Like, oh my gosh, that's really close for me. But the reality is, and you guys know this, I'm not trying to talk down to anyone, but the truth is we're all going to die one day. And our goal for you, our dream and vision for you, which by the way, we inherited from Dr. McDougall, is that you will live and you will die well. Not that you will never, ever die, but that you will live well. You will live life to the fullest right up until your last breath, and that you will die gracefully, not in a hospital hooked up to a bunch of machines, terrified, without your family and friends surrounding you, but that you will just peacefully go after a life well lived. Can we guarantee it? No. But our entire mission and our entire vision is to try to get you there the best we can with the best dietary and lifestyle guidance we can provide you.
That's a very powerful message. Thank you so much for addressing that. I know that we've gotten lots of emails from people who were asking, like, how did he really die, and things like that. And the truth is he peacefully died in his sleep. And I think, after watching relatives just struggle, I've had several family members that, had to have oxygen and then, they were bedridden and all these other kinds of things. And I wish for them that they could have just went to sleep and that was it, because it seems like it would be much more comfortable way to go.
Yes. I have one more quick thing I just realized I left out. And that is a lot of people are asking about the autopsy. Mm-hmm. He will not be having an autopsy. First of all, I think a lot of people don't realize an autopsy is not a regular part of when someone dies, you just get an autopsy. Autopsies are normally performed when there's confusion or questions of how could this person die? It's like someone was 30 and they died, or someone at the age of 77 died, but it's really weird circumstances and we need to know. Also, Dr. McDougall specifically did not want an autopsy. And I've seen people again online say, that's shady, that's weird. Why are they holding out? Why are they keeping it secret? None of that's going on. I can tell you, I am personally very involved and in communication with Heather. There are no secrets being hidden from you guys. It is simply that his final wishes were not to have an autopsy. Anybody who has followed Dr. McDougall will not be surprised by this at all whatsoever. He didn't want to be messed with, you guys, in life or in death, and he just didn't want it. So they're not having an autopsy because those were his wishes. And so we have to let that lie. Anybody who's out there feeling like, well, but that's not right, and the family owes it. Guys, no, they do not. No, they do not. And I hope that you will have the grace to see how painful that kind of communicating with this family at this time would be. Imagine it was you.
Yeah.
And people thought they were entitled to your medical history and your personal information and all of that. And they were demanding something that the family has decided not to do in honor of his wishes. You understand they're going to honor his wishes. And so if you can just, I was about to say, if you could just stop it, I don't mean it like that. But if we could all just take a step back and recognize this is a human being, you guys, a human being that gave his whole life so that we would know the right way. in honor of that and in understanding of the position that his family is in with his final wishes, I think we just let that lie. We let it go. And, if you're looking for a reason to not follow this diet, I release you from following it. Don't follow it. You don't need your reason to be it didn't work for Dr. McDougall. Okay. Number one, that's not the case here at all whatsoever. But I understand if you're looking for a reason not to follow it, I get it. You're looking for a reason. Just go ahead and don't follow it. That's fine. No hair off my back. Is that the expression? Oh no, I'm probably mixing up expressions. Is that the expression, no hair off my back? No.
No, I can't remember.
Ask Kathy. Oh, I'm going to get that all wrong.
What's the expression? It's not no hair off my back. What is it? No skin off my back?
No skin off my back. Yeah. So I do that sometimes where I take two different expressions and I mix them up. And so I was like, shoot, in a very sincere moment, I got that all wrong. I'm sorry. It's no skin off my back. It's no skin off of our backs. If you do not want to follow this way of eating, just don't do it. If you don't believe in it, if you're not bought in, then forget about it.
Yeah.
But please leave his family alone and don't say misguided and hurtful things like, oh, he died because the diet doesn't work. That is not the case. Okay. I mean, but thank you all for your concern. And I'm not trying to chastise the public and say, leave them alone. But I do feel very naturally defensive of my friends and colleagues. And this diet, which is backed by every major true scientific study, and so anyway, all that to say, thank you so much for your concern. Thank you for your thoughts, your prayers, every expression of love and comfort that you've extended to us. We have felt it. We've seen it. We've shared it with one another. Thank you. And I want to say thank you to people who are bringing up these important questions. I'm not in any way trying to tell you not to ask questions. Please always ask questions. That's how dialogue happens. That's how we learn. We aren't afraid of your questions, but I hope that you feel like they've been sufficiently answered to the extent that they will be, because there will not be an autopsy and you've been given the exact correct information and nothing is being hidden or held back. So thank you for bringing that up. And thank you, Cheryl, for giving me the opportunity to address those questions here.
Oh, I think it's incredibly important that if someone has a question, they should have an answer. And
yes,
you have so beautifully given us one. And thank you so much. So much.
My pleasure.
As always, we loved having you here today. Is there anything else that you would like to comment on or anything?
I don't think so. I haven't been great about seeing the comments. I'm just worried that we're not missing any other questions, Cheryl.
I'm just double checking. There's just been lots of kudos to you for giving everyone the information that you have. Lots of people saying that the family has their right to privacy. You've handled these questions with such grace. People are saying it's great he died so peacefully. He'll be missed.
Yeah.
The family owes us nothing. They'll miss him being on Chef AJ with all his research and information.
Yes. Nobody was better at reading the research and staying on top of it than Dr. McDougall. I've thought several times over the past week and a half, who's going to fill that void? Really? Who else is out there doing that? I don't know anyone. I mean, and I've told people this, very personally. Dr. McDougall and I had this kind of relationship, which was that he really liked that I was a nurse. And so we had a lot of communication back and forth. He would find an article, like from a medical journal or something that he liked and thought was interesting, and he would send it to me. And, I'd respond and tell him what I thought and ask him what he thought and all of that. And, when Stan, my husband, Stan and I found out on day one of our vacation that Dr. McDougall died, it was very soon that I thought, my buddy he's my buddy, you know, like he, in my own personal way, I'm just going to miss, I will never get an email from him that showed, it always showed me that he had been sitting there combing through the research and considering it all. And even though his message really never changed in any substantial way, he was open to change until the day he died. He was open and reading and searching all the time. And it's just very hard for me to imagine who could possibly come along and fill those shoes. And I just think maybe we won't have that anymore. And that's a massive loss, not just for us, but for the whole world.
Exactly.
Because we don't know the ripple effect of all the research and all of the reading that he did. And so we all feel it. We feel it with you. We appreciate and recognize that this is your loss too, guys. We're all in this together. And so my heart's with each and every one of you as you grieve in your own personal way, the loss that you're experiencing now. Thank you for being
made
here.
A comment that was very, very touchy. She said, I must admit, I'm disappointed that people are obsessed with how Dr. McDougall passed away. Let's focus on his work and his legacy. And I think that's just really what we're trying to say here. And Annie Venom also said, I'm so sad for the loss of Dr. McDougall. What a wonderful human. The way that he went is exactly what we are striving for with this way of life. So I think a lot of people get it. Lots of people in the comments saying dying peacefully in your sleep is the best way to go. They love your explanation. He was a great man, had a great death. He will be missed very much. Jill is saying 77 is a good long life.
Yeah, that's the other thing is it's beyond the national average for an American man still. Yeah. We think of it as so young. I think you can definitely be a youthful 77-year-old, and some 77-year-olds have a lot of life ahead of them. One thing, Dr. Lyle said this. I don't know if you guys saw the statement that Dr. Lyle made on his podcast, the Beat Your Genes podcast. Oh my goodness. It was so beautiful. I immediately texted him. I'm like, I love this so much. Thank you so much for this statement. But one thing he said, I believe it was in that podcast, was he said, in truth, what we can expect is 80 years plus or minus 10. That's, in the end, that's what it is. That's what a human lifespan is today in 2024. 80 years plus or minus 10. And, that I recognize, guys, that is a really disquieting piece of information for a lot of people. I know that mortality is not something that we enjoy, spending time thinking about and talking about. But in a way, I felt like that was comforting. It's like, okay, 80 plus or minus 10. What am I doing in my life right now that is wasteful of those precious years? And what am I doing that feels like a really good use of them? Because obviously we all know we're not promised tomorrow. Shoot, we're not even promised this afternoon.
Right.
So what am I really living for? What really matters? And how can I start living better, in light of and in honor of Dr. McDougall passing at 77 years old, and knowing that tomorrow's not promised to any of us.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to miss him. That's for sure. Yeah,
me too. So much.
Used to love when he'd get riled up about something.
Yes. Well, the gift that he left us all is hundreds of recordings of his teachings and lectures. And how lucky are we that he will live on in that way? We are so fortunate to have him forever. Yeah.
I do a last check here.
Yeah.
Davika says, I believe that Dr. McDougall will continue his work on the other side.
Beautiful.
And Karen says, Stacy, the McDougall program is made so much better because you are part of it. You are an excellent representative.
Thank you, Karen. So kind.
Thank you, Beth, for thinking that I'm an awesome show host, but I don't feel that way. Maybe
You
someday
are.
I will.
No, you are, Cheryl. You're
can't.
amazing.
I have comfort knowing that the peanut gallery is over here in the office listening to everything I say and will correct me if I say something wrong. You should go.
What a
Nobody's
blessing.
saying anything to you.
What a gift, Cheryl, to have someone who will fact check you in real time at all times.
Right? Oh. Tina says, tell Mary we love her. And yes, from all of us.
I will. Thank you, Tina.
All right. Kitty Mommy does have some information that might make sense of some of this. Kitty Mommy heard that the people are asking because Dr. McDougall pursued Dr. Atkins' family for autopsy results for his death, not agreeing with them. Just thought I'd mention that. So that might have something.
Yeah. I don't know the full story on that. So you'll have to ask someone who's been around longer than I have, because that was before my time. I was just a wee babe out in the world eating the standard American diet. Don't know.
I don't remember any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody said Dr. Lim will carry on Dr. M's great legacy for sure. Elizabeth says, thank you to you and I for bringing clarity, compassion, and common sense to our world. And common sense is a big deal these days, folks.
For sure. And common courtesy.
Yes.
Yikes. You guys, I gotta say this. Can we all just commit through this election cycle to just be beacons of kindness in the world?
Yes.
Because this world, our country is going to need kind people.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we all just as a community today decide together, come what may, no matter what's going on in this election cycle, give an extra smile to the person in the line at the grocery store, and give a good morning to the people you pass on your walk, and just be kind and soft, because it's going to get ugly, I'm afraid.
It is.
It already is.
I was talking to somebody about it yesterday, and I have so many concerns, and but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the best me forward and just try to represent kindness and just keep doing what I do to, help people wherever possible. And just, if somebody blows their horn at me, instead of me screaming back, I'm just going to say, have a great day. I'm just
perfect. Oh God, I should have known she was going to chime in right then.
If you use any other non-car example, I would agree with you 1,000,000%. She gets in the car and she starts kvetching about people the moment she closes the door. She will do that with everything else, and in the store, it's just not in a car.
Cheryl, she called you out so hard. All I can say is, in this moment, I am so thankful Stan is not here, because Stan would be standing over there going, Stacy too. She is such a begrudge, whatever it is. I mean, I am such a wench when it comes to car stuff. I am the nicest person. Like, what you see is what you get on this show. I am as nice in normal life as I am on this show. But you put me behind the wheel of the car and I lose my darn mind. I'm such an ugly person. So you're not alone, Cheryl.
I try my best, but it seems like since the pandemic, people have forgotten how to drive, and I can't take the coming from the third lane over and going all the way over because, I need to get off now.
Okay, lest you think I'm only picking on Cheryl, this is my public service announcement, probably to everyone who is not watching today. Cover your mouth if you sneeze or cough. I'll even take the bad one where you sneeze in your hand. However, look, again, elbow. We were at a store and people were like, and I'm like, there was a pandemic. So in case you felt like I was being too harsh about Cheryl, that is where you can tell me that I could never say, because I won't say anything to them, but I say very naughty things in my mind. So that's my thing.
Oh my goodness.
That was amazing. I am sorry. Somebody in the chat or someone in the comments said that they didn't hear what Kathy said, and that's probably because I was like cackling, laughing so hard immediately. So Cheryl, would you like to tell everyone what happened just now when you were sharing with us how you're going to say have a good day?
Because we were cackling so hard. So what happened was when I was talking about, just saying have a nice day when I was driving instead of getting angry at drivers, and Kathy called me out on the fact that I can't even just get in the car without starting to kvetch about what's going to happen when I get on the road. So she was saying if I would have said that statement about being out in the world, doing things online, anything else except using a car example, she would have believed it. But the car example, she cannot stand behind because I can't keep my mouth shut in the car. And it's probably true.
I cannot tell you how hard it was for me just now to not laugh my butt off again, all over again. Because, I so identify with that. And it's like I turn into a completely different person.
Yeah.
And what is it about the car?
I don't know.
So Apple put in the comments, she said, Southern folk have made putting someone in their place sweetly an art. Example, bless your heart. So This is an ongoing thing we have. We joke about it all the time because that's absolutely true. So in Texas, you can say whatever you want about someone as long as at the end of it you say bless her heart. It like undoes all the ugly, terrible things you just said. So maybe Cheryl, maybe that's our solution. So we do yell and get all crazy with the people on the road, but then we just always follow it up with a bless their heart.
Yeah.
And then everything's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's how we'll be beacons of light.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, even one anti-venom says that's never going to happen. The car is its own world.
Totally.
But we can commit right now, right here, right now, that outside of the car, we are all going to be the very best human beings that we can be and spread our kindness to everyone, everywhere. Including ourselves.
Totally.
And, and even people who disagree with us or think differently than us, we need to show them kindness.
Especially them, because it's so easy to show love and kindness to people who think just like you do. There's nothing heroic about that. The real champions will love and spread kindness and be kind in the face of all of the opposite of that. It's the people who don't agree with you and aren't just like you and all of that. So that's where it's going to be needed the most, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lead by example, everyone. That's the trick. That's the trick.
Let's do it.
Delia says the car is like going to another country. You think you're protected somehow.
True.
So true. Thank you.
I feel like we have covered everything in the course of this.
Yes.
We've had some laughs. We've had some tears.
Yeah.
What a great show.
Yeah, we did. And thank you, folks, for giving me that little laugh there at the end, because I kind of needed that. I was feeling a little sad. So
yes, perfect ending. I loved
it.
And
I'll leave you with this comment from Jill, our friend Jill Caperton. I always say they must have to go to the bathroom.
So graceful. I love it.
That is such a good one. I'm going to try to remember that. I'm going to try to think that in my head, that they must have to go to the bathroom, because I know I've been a little crazy trying to get to a bathroom too.
Yeah. Stan sometimes says, oh, his wife must be in labor. Yeah.
And Video 1000 Nights says, and eat a damn potato.
That is the bow that we needed tied on this entire thing. Thank you, Video 1000 Nights.
Yep. So everyone, thank you so much for being here with Stacy and I and the Peanut Gallery, Kathy, who kept poking in here and there. She is doing an amazing job cleaning, by the way. I just keep seeing things come by, and it's looking great. And we're going to get our wiring done for our AC. Yay! So everyone, have a great, great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. And we will see you again very, very soon. Bye.
Bye.